Hello and welcome to The Recipe, brought to you by Filippo Berio. I'm your host, Theo Randall, chef patron at Theo Randall Cucina Italiana. Today I'm joined by one of the most influential voices in modern food media. He's a classically trained chef and co-founder of one of the world's biggest online food communities, Sorted Food. With over 2.9 million subscribers and a mission to make cooking fun, creative and inclusive, he's changed the way millions cook at home. Please welcome to the show the brilliant Ben Ebbrell. Welcome, Ben, to The Recipe. It's fantastic to have you here. This show is all about dishes that have meaning. What dish are you going to cook for us today?
It's a big old hearty dish of nostalgia. It's a classic fish pie.
Lovely.
Yeah, one of the first things I ever cooked for my family as a kid.
So how did that come about? I mean, how old were you when you first cooked this?
I think probably like 12 when I was kind of given that first chance to do dinner. And before that, you know, Rice Krispie cakes or flapjacks, or you might have made a coleslaw to go with the barbecue or something. But it was the first time it was kind of like, no, you can do dinner tonight. So for the family, I was flicking through a cookbook, found a recipe, and I was like, that one. And this is it. I don't know why I chose it, but it's kind of always stuck with me as a very nostalgic, comforting family favourite.
And this is a nice recipe because it is quite simple to follow. It's not overcomplicated. You're baking the fish. You're not cooking the fish off beforehand. It's all being cooked.
It all cooks in the sauce, so you just get the best of both worlds. It is packed full of spinach, and it's actually a dish that's got a whole bunch of sort of hard-boiled eggs in it as well, which I think we're very generous on the fish today, but that was a way of also bulking it out sort of 25 years ago to feed the family. It was like egg was also cheap protein that you could bulk out a fish pie with.
So how did you get into cooking? I mean, you know, we've all sort of gone down a route, but you started off as a kitchen porter, didn't you?
Well, my very first job, I was just looking for some sort of pocket money, and at age 16, I literally couldn't get a job at the garden centre, couldn't get a job at the supermarket, so I ended up at a pub, in a pub kitchen on potwash, and I had a terrible crook in my neck after the first shift because I spent the whole time just watching the chefs in the kitchen, and the head chef was like, you want to be over there, don't you? I was like, absolutely.
That's exactly how I started.
It's an addiction, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, potwash is a very underrated job because to do potwash, you've got to be very organised, and I think doing that is the best thing to start off in the kitchen. I mean, I was the same age, 15, 16, wanted to earn a little bit of extra pocket money. And I sort of went to work in this little sort of French bistro. And it was just, what I loved about it was just the atmosphere in the kitchen. I mean, whether it's a pub, whether it's a cafe, whatever, you always get that you know, amazing interaction between the front of house and the back of house. And it's
the power of a brigade, I think, because, you know, the first pub I worked in, it wasn't great. But what I loved about it was just the movement around the kitchen of people, ingredients and processes, deliveries, and then all of a sudden feeding guests. And there is nothing better than the gift of feeding people. Yeah,
and also there's that adrenaline as well. I mean, you know, even whatever you're looking at, whether it's a top restaurant, you still have that amazing atmosphere in a kitchen that you can't explain to someone who's never done it before.
It's an adrenaline, and then literally the best compliment. You don't even have to speak to the front of house or the diners, but when an empty plate comes back into the kitchen, that's it. Job done.
Yeah. So and then you went to university.
Culinary Arts Management. So it was like a degree in, learning the basics of cooking, but also managerial skills behind running food businesses.
Right.
Not that I ever had any idea that what we do now and have been doing 15 years was it, but it's a food business.
You were kind of the cook in the sorted group.
Yeah.
And so you must have a lot of responsibility because obviously being the cook and it's all about food, it's a big...
There was a lot riding on my shoulders, but very quickly I realised that I was going to run out of recipes pretty early on. So everything for Sorted Food is all about the audience and the community.
Yeah.
I would say that's the you part of YouTube. And we're always asking, what do you want to cook? What do you want to see us cook? How do you cook it? And we get so much interaction in the comments. And I think, therefore, I'm always learning, like constantly.
That's so great you have that interaction because then, you know, I guess it's inspiring and then you're inspiring the viewers and they're inspiring you.
We almost say we're almost like the conductors. We're there just kind of conducting the orchestra, gathering what comes in, kind of repackaging it and just throwing it back out to the world. And it's all just a conversation around food and it's the best job in the world. Amazing. We're very lucky.
Yeah, no, I can tell you love it. Tell me about the recipe. So how are we going to cook this recipe? What's in it?
Yeah, so I mean, it is kind of the classic. So it starts sort of sofrito, bay leaf, classic, one of those things that's always there, and you sort of question,
love a bay leaf.
Does it add anything? Well, the answer is absolutely yes. We've now proven that on YouTube. Yeah. But then you basically make a sauce. So once that's sweated down, you make a delicious sauce, a little bit of flour to thicken it, but otherwise stock, cream, loads of spinach wilted down into it, fresh herbs, zest of lemon, dollop of mustard. So it's like lots and lots of flavour bombs to freshen it up and keep it sort of nice and zingy, and then you just pour that straight over the fish, which is raw.
which
Top with mashed potato and bake it.
That's such the nice thing about it is you're just putting it onto the raw fish, so the fish becomes really succulent and juicy, and all the juices from the fish remain in the pie, and I guess they get absorbed by the potato.
And if you are entertaining, whether it's friends or family, it is something you can literally do hours or even the day before, and then when it matters, you just whack it in the oven, and it feels like effortless entertaining.
Okay, so let's get cooking.
Yep. So maybe we divide and conquer. If you want to dice an onion, I'll attack the carrot and celery.
How fine, chef?
Do you know what? The finer it goes, the quicker it'll cook. But at the same time, remember I cooked this when I was 12, so I can't imagine it was very fine then. My knife skills have somewhat improved in that time.
So you started growing vegetables in your parents' garden, is that right?
Yeah. Well, my dad always had a sort of a veg patch at the end of the garden, and it was during lockdown that I adopted an allotment in Hertfordshire. Absolutely loved trialling and often failing at growing stuff, but then the real successes came through, and it's just so rewarding when you've spent months crafting something, looking after and nurturing it, and then you get to cook it.
And eat it.
Yeah. And it tastes so much better for it.
But that's what you're all about, though, isn't it? I mean, sorted food is about sustainability. It's about using everything. There's no waste, which is so important this day and age. What's your advice to people, I mean, when they're cooking? Because there's so many things you can cook. I mean, for instance, vegetables, like root vegetables, you look in the bottom of your fridge and you've got a carrot and it's a bit limp, or you've got some a parsnip or something. I always say just put it into cold water and it will just come back to life.
Yeah, and there's still 101 uses for it, even if it isn't at its absolute best. The worst thing you can do is throw it away. We throw far too much food away, and I think it's because we're constantly told that food is expensive, the cost of food is going up. We're told at the checkout how much we have to hand over.
Yes.
But no one measures how much food they're throwing away in terms of cost. And that's, I think, the real balance. If you know how much you're throwing away, people wouldn't throw away nearly as much. So plan better, shop better, and then try and sort of cook and bring it all together.
And that's something that you're shouting that message out to everyone.
Because it saves everyone time, effort, money, and you can eat really well as a result of it. So we'll go in with all three.
All three? Yeah.
Onion, carrot and celery. I mean, this really is like the foundation of cooking. Once you've learnt these core skills, you can adjust and adapt so much over time.
This combination, though, is the basis for so many different things. I mean, in Italy, they call it a sofrito, where you've got onions, celery, carrot, and you cook it down till you get that sort of sweetness.
I go back to when we were doing fish pie before. Fish was the expensive protein.
Yeah.
It's why we bulk it out with egg, but also if you've got loads of root vegetables, it adds body to the sauce, and they're also really cheap, but add that sweetness and flavour.
Yeah.
A little bit of garlic in once you've given the veg a head start to literally sweat, so fry, but also with the lid on, so it's steaming.
So you're
and sweating.
steaming it, yeah.
And then the infamous bay leaf, which is so important, but I think chefs get a bad rap of like, what difference does the bay leaf make? You know.
Well, it just makes a difference. It gives it flavour. It gives it a kind of richness that you don't get from any other herb. I mean, you can put thyme in, you can put what I always call hard herbs.
Yeah.
But a bay leaf, just one bay leaf, just adds such a difference. I mean, if you think about like a ragu or something, you put a bay leaf in, it just tastes incredible. And if you're lucky to get the bay leaf when you're being served it, even better.
Well, also, you know then it's been done with love and properly. We actually did, because the whole thing was sorted. It's how do you distill what goes on in chefs' brains? Let's be honest, chefs, we're a bit weird.
Yes.
And the way we think and the way we prepare and cook. And how do you make that useful to normal home cooks? That's always been what we do. It's chefs versus normals. And the normals insisted that bay leaf made no difference. So we did a whole video just testing, blind testing, one made with, one made without. And the guys didn't know which was which, and asked them to taste it and can they identify. And we did it through a whole number of different dishes, and each and every time bay leaf came out on top. So it was like proved once and for all how important those little things are.
So sorted food really is education. It's about teaching people the basics of cooking.
Yeah, and it's a conversation around food. We don't have all the right answers, but we just have dialogue with each other on screen, but also with the audience and the communities, because entertainment first, have fun.
That's the important.
We're a bunch of schoolmates. We've known each other for 28 years. Filming days are the best days of our month.
And you still all love each other.
And it's still absolutely, occasionally we get on each other's nerves, but nothing that can't be solved without, a pint at the end of the day and iron everything out. And it's just the best. It's like, entertain first, inspire second, and accidentally educate. We always say it's like education through stealth.
Yes.
Because you don't want to be preached to or taught, but if you can adopt some stuff as you go along, almost by accident, then everyone's winning. More recently, we've launched the Sorted Foundation, and it's kind of the impact arm of our business, and it's a chance for us to use the team and the tools and the platform and the channel we have to drive positive change, but only with what our audience and community care about. So we ask them, what do you care about? And the biggest thing that keeps coming back through is food education.
Yeah.
For adults as well.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
too many adults, they're not willing to try new stuff. Or we always say, you know, in our late 30s, we're still weaning.
Yeah.
Every time we start rolling the cameras, we are trying new stuff with open eyes, open mouths, and open ears and minds, and you wean onto new stuff, whether it's a global ingredient or dish you've never heard of. And I think a lot of people stop and they get comfortable in their own space, but how do we food education is so key. How do we keep opening those doors?
Do you think we're in a society now where we're kind of second or third generation of people that don't cook, or, you know, our parents don't cook, so therefore it's much harder to teach people?
Exactly that. And food really is just a vehicle to bring people together. Yeah. We always say, yes, we're a food and cooking channel, but actually we're just a channel about friendship. Food is the catalyst, or cooking is the catalyst, and it starts every conversation. You just take it from there.
I think what people forget about cooking is it's one of the most incredible social skills. Because if you can cook, then you can invite people around, you can entertain, and it's such a lovely thing to have someone around, a few mates around, and, you know, making a pasta or making a fish pie, whatever. But it's such an important thing and powerful thing.
Yeah, it's also just a wonderful gift. I think that's when the penny dropped for me, cooking this dish for family. One, selfishly, I just wanted to cook because I loved it and I really enjoyed food. Came from quite a foodie household, albeit neither mum or dad were trained or chefs or anything, but just real good scratch cooking. But the moment I served it up, I realised that was the joy, was feeding people is a wonderful gift, not just a physical plate of food, but the opportunity to feed people. And I think if more people can get around food, mealtimes actually really matter. And we've almost lost that. The grab-and-go culture or takeout has its place, absolutely. But sitting down around a table and having a meal together is where connections are made.
But of course it is. And it's one of those sort of moments when you sit and have a family meal, everyone, you know, chats and talks, and you've kind of got this moment where everyone has to sit together for, you know, even if it's only half an hour, it makes such a difference. And we're kind of losing that culture. So it's lovely to hear that, you know, cooking is coming back, and in schools it's so important. You know, if you're a young person and someone's teaching you how to make this dish, for instance, then that just has got so much power and energy because it's going to inspire you.
What it can unlock, I know people's relationship with food isn't necessarily particularly strong at the moment. I'm talking as a nation, as a planet. All of our relationships with food are a little bit twisted. And actually, if we just go back to basics of just companionship, quite literally breaking bread together and eating together, I think you can unlock so many of the doom and gloom conversations around food and the food systems. Actually, just have a great meal together. It all starts there.
Yeah, of course. And sustainability, obviously, you know, we've mentioned that already, that it's a big part of what you do. But, you know, what's happening in the world? I mean, you know, we talk about wastage. You hear about supermarkets only buying straight vegetables, and, you know, what can we do to improve that?
Well, I think you attack it from both ends, right? You've got what can you do to help farmers and producers to make more of what they already do, and how do we as consumers say, actually, we're happy to have something that's a bit wonky, or we are only going to have strawberries when they're wonderful in the season and not flown around the world from somewhere else. There's a bit on us to do that as consumers, but actually, how do you help farmers do that? And then there's so many amazing entrepreneurial startups who are just completely rethinking food with byproducts, making everything from stationery using food pulp rather than putting it to land mass, or the flesh from around the cocoa bean, or the cherry from around the coffee. We all know about the beans, but all that other stuff is really useful.
Yeah.
So how do you turn it into something that can be loved and celebrated? And when we come across these great ideas, we are very happy and proud to sort of shine a light on it.
I think the words, you know, seasonality is so important. And, you know, we forget, I think you can go to a supermarket and you can buy so many different things that are out of season.
I think we're spoilt for choice, and that is a wonderful place to be, that we can celebrate food and cuisine from all over the world. But sometimes it's okay just to go back to what we had before we started to break the system.
Yeah, of course.
And that is local, seasonal, and it's always going to be cheaper.
So we fried the celery, carrot and onion.
Yep.
And then you added the bay leaf and the garlic and a bit of corn flour?
Just a little bit of plain flour, just to almost begin the base of a roux, albeit it was the olive oil at the start, not the butter, and then in with stock, a little at a time, and you can just see it sticking up nicely, and then we can finish it with cream. Perhaps actually, if you can chop some fresh parsley.
Sure.
You might not need all of that, but a good generous amount.
Do you want the stalks as well?
Yeah, why not? in the sauce. Absolutely no trouble with that.
So how do you go about doing new recipes? Because I mean, you must be you film once a week.
Regularly filming. We're putting out 3 videos a week. Over the years, we've done a dozen or so cookbooks. We've got a meal planning app which is churning out great sort of easy midweek recipes that share common ingredients.
Right.
And people often sort of say, well, how do you keep coming up with recipes? But
you just do.
The analogy I've always had is like, if you think about all the music that's ever been written in the world, from the most basic lift music to orchestral scores and all sorts, they all stem from the same 7 notes.
Yes.
And as chefs, we're playing with a lot more than 7 ingredients.
Yes.
So we're never going to run out of ideas and combinations. We just have to keep our eyes open to sort of learn from others, taking on board what great chefs in great restaurants are doing and what menus, because I think that probably hits that first.
Yeah.
You see trends popping up in restaurants, then they filter through to cookbooks and maybe more traditional media, and then eventually you'll see these same flavours and ingredients popping up in supermarkets. But you've got really a head start just by looking at the great chefs.
Yeah. So when you're coming up with these recipes, are you thinking, you obviously got to think about so many things. You've got to think about seasonality, you've got to think about sustainability. Do you kind of cross things off as you're going along? Because you think, right, you can't buy that in a supermarket, or you can't buy that in a farmer's market, or this is just completely wrong because it's just not the wrong time of year.
Yeah, and it's got to be accessible. We have a global audience, so what that means is that our seasons are going to be very different to people watching. So variety is always key, but I think keeping that balance, really dialing into lentils and legumes and beans, because we know they're good for everything from the soil for the farmers, but also our own nutrition, and we should all probably be eating a few more. Think about how you bulk these things out. Talking bulking out, loads of fresh spinach.
This recipe is so quick. I mean, it's like it's just happening. So we've got, you put mustard in there.
Yeah, a dollop of mustard. Yeah, and a bit of seasoning.
Seed mustard.
I mean, to be honest with you, I always say whatever you've got open in the fridge. This is whole grain. Yeah. But it could be Dijon. It could be whatever you've got.
So we're getting quite a few vegetables in this dish. It's quite healthy.
I think that's key because if you are feeding a family, you need to think about balanced nutrition, and there is something really comforting. Don't get me wrong, we're going to glug in cream and, cheese and there's butter in the mash as well. But ultimately,
it tastes good.
It tastes good, and you've also got loads of veg: the carrot, the celery, the onion, the spinach, loads of fresh herbs, and we're going to serve it with green beans as well.
So you've cooked for some pretty famous people, and Andrew Lloyd Webber being one of them. I mean, that must have been incredible cooking him, because he's a very discerning man.
Absolutely.
And he
was a food critic for many years.
Yeah, he knows a lot about food, and obviously he knows about wine. And you cooked at his house, yeah?
Yeah, so sort of private chefing in his place for a number of years, as when times were busy, so at Christmas and things like that. And it was an absolute joy and a privilege, because they were such foodies.
Yeah.
They really celebrated great food, but they wanted all the classics, which again, as a chef, is kind of great, because it allows you to hone the really good stuff, the beef Wellingtons and the canapes and hors d'oeuvres and the like, that are just nothing. You can't beat a good Scotch egg. So why, it doesn't need changing. Just stick with the classics. Sometimes works. So I've glugged in a little bit of cream, and that's basically the sauce. And if you throw in all of that parsley, and I'm also going to zest in just the zest of a lemon.
Lemon zest is an amazing addition. I always think one of my favourite things is a gremolata, where you have like parsley, garlic, raw garlic and lemon zest, and you add that to like a stew or a soup or something, and it just brings the flavour out. It's extraordinary.
Especially if you're doing sort of root vegetables and things like that. They need, or beetroot, they need that little bit of citrus just to lift the whole thing. That's it, literally.
It's such a great recipe.
It's a really thick, creamy sauce, but full of veg. And then what we do is we pour it over all of the fish. So the fish, as it cooks, will also sort of thin out that sauce a little bit. Yeah, please do. But I'm also whacking in some eggs, and these are just beautifully soft boiled eggs. Adds a nice different texture. The yolk is lovely and creamy with the sauce, but essentially we can just go all over that.
So Sorted Food's been going for 15 years.
Yeah.
What's your success down to? Obviously cooking amazing recipes, but you obviously put a lot of effort and hard work into connecting with people. We're
lucky, I think, or maybe fortuitous, that food is our subject matter, because everyone has a relationship with food and everyone has opinions on food.
Yeah.
Everyone's usually proud of the food that means something to them.
Yeah.
So you can always, it's a great icebreaker. You can always talk to anybody at any event, whether you know them or not, about food. And that's kind of our bag. It's changed loads over the years. It used to be very instructional how-to recipes, and the beauty of YouTube, you can still find all those, search for them, and you'll get the results because recipes still work. But also now it's a collaboration of working with other great people, and all of that just has a place.
Mashed potato on top.
Mashed potato on top.
Love a bit of mashed potato. So what's your theory on mashed potato? Is it a 50-50 butter and potato, or is it...
Depends who's looking. I mean, generous for sure. Get yourself a nice floury potato, something like a Maris Piper.
Yeah.
Because when you do mash it, it then loves to absorb all of the goodness. And you can see from this, generous. I think when we put this in the oven, it will all bubble over, which is why we're going to put it on a baking tray.
So you want to get the potato really kind of crispy and sort of burnt on the edges.
Literally like sticking out over the top.
Yeah.
You don't want a huge gap that you haven't been able to fill. And any leftovers, fish pie, I would say, reheats really well as well. There's nothing wrong with fish pie leftovers in the freezer for another day.
So you must have seen, from starting 15 years ago, you must have seen a huge change on online cooking.
Yep.
And in lots of ways, you were one of the first to do it.
Yeah, we were there, weirdly enough, before YouTube even had channels.
Yeah.
It was just a weird timeline of just random videos, and people would send you a link to a video and that's what you'd go and watch, rather than say, I like this person's content and I'll commit to that. So it was really early on. But for that reason, we've been able to adapt and build this amazing audience. We would be nothing without the community.
Yeah.
But the reality is, some of those people have been watching for 10, 15 years. And if you think about your own friendships, how many people you know for 10, 15 years, how often do you hang out with them? Probably not 3 times a week. And that's kind of the relationship we have with our audience. And they're watching on TV, smart TV. So we're in their living rooms and we're very lucky to be able to do that. So we're always very generous with sort of our time and our conversation to make sure that it's two-way.
And so how close is this to the original, this dish?
I think this is
Parmesan?
pretty classic. I think it was Parmesan, but it was probably that little jar of dried stuff that smelt of feet back then. I'm talking 25 years ago. But that is an absolute feast that then goes in the oven. And importantly on a tray, because it's all going to bubble up and cause a mess, but that's okay.
You want it all to bubble up and you want all those sort of bits.
Some lovely crispy bits.
You get on a lasagna when it goes all kind of crispy.
Yeah. But it's something you can do. It hasn't taken us too long. And then you can...
It's taking no time at all.
You can literally cook that now, this evening, or tomorrow.
Amazing. Should we get it in the oven?
Yep, let's do it.
Looks magnificent.
Yeah, and I think it is one you really just take to the table and let people help themselves as well. Growing up with 2 brothers, it was always a competition of how quickly you could eat to make sure you got seconds. But
in lots of ways, that's the best way to serve food, isn't it? When you serve it in the middle of the table, it just looks so impressive.
I think so. Like, it's really creamy. It's loads of seafood.
I mean, nothing's escaped from that dish. You've got all of the
trapped in all the flavour.
All the flavours there. The potato's got a crispy top.
And we didn't actually talk about the fish, but it's a combination of cod, smoked haddock and prawns. So you've got that smoked fish in there as well. Another sort of flavour bomb, basically. Yeah. And we just got some green beans because, well,
bit more veg.
5 a day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And green beans in lots of butter.
Of course. Simple as that.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. There we go. Does that pass?
I can't wait to eat that.
I don't know if it's changed since I was 12.
Well, at least
it's pretty much still the same recipe.
Perfect crust. And the fish looks like it's just perfectly cooked.
Well,
let's go and eat it.
Yep.
Ben, this smells and looks absolutely amazing.
It's a proper bowl of nostalgia.
I'm going to tuck it. Before we tuck in, let's have a glass of wine. So we've got an Albarino. Now, I hear you know quite a lot about wine.
Well, I'm not sure about quite a lot, but I used kind of lockdown as an excuse to drink wine, but put it to good use. So research and revision, and I did some of the wine qualifications. And I think the more you learn about wine, the more you realise there's still a hell of a lot more to learn. So I've got sort of sucked into that world for sure.
It smells good.
Cheers.
The sorted foundation, I mean, it's just, you've got so many variations on there. You've got this, you talk about a kids channel. I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, so, I mean, this is kind of how I grew up with this kind of food, but I think generally speaking, there are too many kids who don't have a great relationship with food.
Yeah.
But often that's because they've been told that vegetables are boring or they've kind of absorbed this information from somewhere. So we just try and break the mould. We've just launched Sorted Kids, which is a chance just to let kids play with their food again in a really fun way that just breaks the mould, repositions food so that they can come at it with open eyes and open sort of minds and hearts rather than being told what they should and shouldn't like.
You told me about the crunch challenge, which I thought was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, so we basically got a bunch of kids and we gave them a ginger snap biscuit and we got them to crunch through it with a decibel meter to measure how crunchy that biscuit was.
Genius.
because they said they hated salad. And then we kept giving them ingredients and asking them, is it crunchier or less crunchy than the thing that came before? And within 10, 15 minutes, they were crunching through carrots and celery sticks and peppers, forgetting it was salad and they don't like it. They were just playing a completely different game. And you just reposition the conversation around food and suddenly it works.
But it's so important for children to understand food.
Yeah.
I mean, from a very early age, having different ingredients. I mean, you're talking about the crunch challenge. Yeah, that's carrots, celery,
Yep.
all those things that kids won't normally eat. But training them to do that is such a good thing.
And the beauty of something like YouTube is it means the videos we did a year ago or even 10 years ago, many of them are still as relevant today because it's still just a conversation around food. So there's so much to learn and absorb. And it's not all recipe-based. We'll do pitching gadgets, we'll look at food trends, we'll do games of global cuisine where we just lift a cloche, taste a food and try and guess where in the world it's come from. And whoever gets it closest takes a point. And we don't play for prizes, we just play for pride and fun, and it's just a way of unlocking conversation around food.
And what's lovely is that you are completely in control. You haven't got anyone telling you what to do. You own the platform.
You say that. We've got millions of people around the world who tell us what to make.
I know, but that's your community. That's what's so nice about it. It's interactive. It's got people will tell you what they want you to cook or what to come up with.
Yeah, in that sense, we're almost like puppets. The community and the comments and kind of, we call them our sorted squad, but the percentage of people who are super engaged, they spend a lot of time sharing their thoughts of what they'd love to see, and we just make it. We've got a great creative team, combination of creativity, data, and just listening to the audience. We constantly are able to come up with new ideas. We did something several months back where we just said, how many chefs did it take to spoil the broth?
Yeah.
So we got a stock pot and we made the most basic of chicken stocks. And then we took it, literally drove it around London to loads of amazing chefs in all walks of life and restaurants and Greasy Spoon and some of our friends in the industry. And they all tasted it and added one ingredient.
Okay.
And we just kept moving it along. I mean, no spoilers, but 18 is the answer. It got to 18 different chefs before somebody said, I don't want to add anything else to this. But it was like, that was just a silly food idiom that became an amazing video idea. And then we are lucky enough that we can just go out and make it. And that's the joy of YouTube.
So what's next? What the next few years hold for Sorted Food? Because you've come so far, you've got a huge following.
Yeah.
I mean, you must have so many people, so many food companies, or I mean, you highlight food companies that are doing good stuff.
Yeah. And we work with a lot of brands in sort of sponsored content or tourism boards where you get to shine a light on amazing food destinations, sort of food and drink lens. So lots more of that for sure, but we've also only just scratched the surface because without becoming all sort of doom and gloom, I think there's a lot wrong with the food system at the moment.
Yes.
And actually one thing that can unite us all is the joy of just hanging out together, and food can bring people together. So we see that as our duty, our mission is just to bring people together around great food and constantly evolve and be prepared to change our own opinions because over the years, all sorts of things have changed. And
a shopping app is something that you're working on, which must help because there is so much waste in food.
Yeah.
And I love this idea. I mean, tell us about it.
We always said it's how do you make someone become the hero of their own kitchen? Well, you really need a sidekick that does all the heavy lifting and the thinking and the planning, and that's what we created. So it's a meal planning tool that is called Sidekick, and it will juggle recipes together into a meal pack, 3 recipes that share common ingredients. So if you buy a tub of yogurt and you use half of it in this recipe, the other half doesn't grow a third coat and get thrown out.
Yeah.
It gets used in this recipe, or the same with cabbage, you split, or you might buy a packet of sausages. Well, you don't necessarily need to use all of them in this dish, save 2 for that dish over there. And by doing that, you don't throw any food away, which means you're not throwing money away, and you're eating a real variety of food without wasting any. Builds up an arsenal of kind of dry store. I mean, like a chef is only as good as what they've got in the dry store.
Absolutely.
And actually use that to your advantage, but you save money by doing it. Not deliberately, you're out to cook great food and be inspired and 20, 30-minute cooks midweek, but by the end of the week, you've thrown nothing away, which means you've saved money.
I think it's the old days of going around a supermarket and sort of just putting lots of stuff in your trolley and then taking it home, putting it in the fridge. And then after 3-4 days, you think, oh my God, it's gone off, I can throw it out. Those days are hopefully gone. And I think with the way things are these days, it's so much easier to cook with almost like a menu plan. Yeah. Making dishes like this are very, very simple. You've got a family to feed. If you can buy the ingredients in one go and cook for 3 days in one go, it just is
And this comes back to how chefs think, right? Mise en place, and in a weird way, it's first in, first out. It's the way you operate in the restaurant. It's what's currently needs using up first. It's almost like this Venn diagram and Gantt chart of ingredients, which sounds really boring.
Yeah.
It kind of is if you don't know how to do it. So let your sidekick do the thinking, and you just enjoy the cooking and the eating. And that's kind of what we've developed with an amazing team. We built that out, and it's literally changing people's lives and how they react with food and live with food.
And that's going with all the kind of current pack sizes you get. So we were talking about it earlier, sour cream, you use 100 grams in one recipe, it's a 150 gram pot, you got 50 grams in another.
It drives me mad when you see recipes, and we've been guilty of it in the past in recipe books. You're like, this recipe needs 100 ml of sour cream.
Yeah.
You can't buy that.
No, of course.
If you're not careful, the 50 ml, which is the smallest pot size, gets thrown away. Who cares? 50 ml of sour cream, but it is a third of what you've bought.
Yeah.
And a third of all the food bought in the UK is thrown away. So that's the thing we try and fix, but not through being boring and preachy, just for cooking delicious meals and doing the thinking for you.
I think also the problem is when you go to a supermarket, you're encouraged to buy more than you actually need.
Yeah.
This sort of...
We live in the consumerism world.
Buy three, get one free or whatever too. Yeah. So I think it's really good you're challenging that.
Buy less and use everything you buy, and you'll eat much better, and you'll have leftover money to do the things you really want to do.
Good fridge management.
Good fridge management. You'll have money left over to have good wine as well.
Well, that's it. Well, this has been fantastic, really tasty.
Thank you.
What I like about this is it's just, the fish is beautifully cooked. It's just sort of poached. It's not dry. All that flavour's gone into the juice.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Pop it up with mashed potato. It's a little slice of my childhood, but that I still cook regularly, and I love it.
Amazing. Ben, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Recipe with me, Theo Randall. You can find Ben's full fish pie recipe on the Filippo Berrio website at filippoberrio.co.uk/Theo. And make sure to check out Sorted Food and learn more about the Sorted Foundation and how you can get involved. Don't forget to subscribe, follow and share the podcast wherever you listen, and join us next time as we uncover more inspiring dishes and the stories behind them. Until then, happy cooking.